Almighty and most merciful God, we remember before you those whom it would be easy for us to forget, the ones who live on margins and hidden places, those who suffer and are scared, all those who have to navigate a broken world and our broken systems. Stir us, Holy Spirit, to take action for those who are struggling in body and spirit, and to turn their sorrow into joy. Grant this, O God, for the love of your Son, who for our sake became poor, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Welcome, everybody. We are so very blessed to have three of our outreach partners join us this morning to talk to us about an increasing crisis right in our backyard, hunger and housing insecurity. Maybe what they have to say to you this morning will surprise you. Maybe some of it will make you uncomfortable. I'm hoping it inspires you to engage more, get more involved, and learn about ways that you can help out. But we are joined this morning by Marsha Eichelberger from Family Promise Montco, from Wendy Gaynor from Resilient Student Network, and Cindy Wedholm from Mattie Dixon Community Cupboard. So without further ado, I will let them share their expertise and knowledge with you. Or you can shout. Here.
We've all decided that we want to just yell.
Okay, so there we are. So in case you didn't know who we are, that's us. So we have a little bit of some visuals for you because, you don't want to just hear us talk. And Cindy, you want to go? Okay, food insecurity. So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So Cindy, do you want to do that? Sure. Okay.
Hi, everybody. I don't know if you need this or can I?
Yeah.
Okay, microphone. There we have it. Okay. So, as the statistic shows, these are the most recent information from Feeding America for Montgomery County. And I think one of the things that often surprises people is Montgomery County is one of the most affluent in Pennsylvania. So they don't expect people to be struggling. There are a lot of resources and what have you. But 85,000 people, over 85,000 people, have officially been deemed food insecure. Honestly, that number is even higher. There are people that are faced with food insecurity on a daily basis that don't like to admit it, are saying, oh, I'm okay, there are people that are doing worse than us. However, there are people in need, and it's an invisible item. It is invisible to know if somebody is hungry. Oftentimes, parents are not eating for days due to the fact that they have limited food resources for their children. We at Mattie Dixon have seen a drastic increase in the last few years, and just last year, we served over 24,000 individuals with food. We serve a very hyper-local area, so there are tons of other food pantries, including Montco, Family Promise Montco in Roslyn, many in Dresher and Jenkintown, all throughout the area that serve people as well. So our 24,000 people can just show you that there's that much more of a need in the area. I don't know how much you all want me to talk, or who's up next?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, so as you can see, the percentage of population, again, this is what is officially been deemed through Feeding America's statistics and research. However, we truly do believe that that percentage is significantly higher. There is a organization called United for Alice that was established back in the early 2000s in North Jersey, who recognized that there are categories of people that are not below the poverty level, but above the poverty level, but still below what you need to survive and live with your basic needs and cost of living. And that percentage is really what I think is the surprising percentage. I'm kind of jumping around, sorry about that. So we can get into those details further. I just want to kind of just touch base on the food insecurity, and we'll go through everything, and then we can have questions.
Okay. So you want to talk at all about like foods?
Sure. I think that she was just talking about the United Way's ALICE report. ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained and Employed, right? So we're talking about folks living in Montgomery County who are employed, who are working, who have all sorts of things going on in their lives, yet cannot meet their basic needs. We're not talking about having enough money to take a lavish vacation, just being able to stay not only above the poverty line, but being able to meet their cost of living. It is 26% in Montgomery County. Okay, so you've got the poverty level, which hovers around 7%, 8%. But when we're talking about folks who are on a daily basis really struggling, it is our neighbors. It is folks that live close to us. It is our children, right? It is our senior citizens trying to figure out how to make ends meet and stay where they are living. It's a cost burden. A lot of this has to do with housing prices rising, the cost of food rising, the cost of transportation, but our income not quite keeping pace with those levels of increase, right? So it's not a difficult thing to sort of wrap your head around. What's hard to understand in the second wealthiest county in the state is that there's 26% of us who are struggling on a daily basis. Right, okay, so we'll go into this. So again, my name is Wendy. I work for Resilient Students Network. The founder is in this room. His name is John Keppner. You probably all know who he is. Got this started several years ago, but because what he noticed was at Gwendolyn Mercy University and universities across not only this county, but the state and the country, is that there's a rising crisis among college-age students, college and trade school students, that probably is going to be a little shocking. We're talking about the 40th percentile, right? So students who are food insecure, housing insecure, hovers at around 42%. We can go, I think, to the next slide, which shows a little bit better, even the next one. Yeah, there we go. So I'm not going to read all this to you, but the ones in the middle there, 43%, this is across the nation, of college students experience housing insecurity. That means they don't have enough money to have some basic meals. Sometimes they're skipping meals, that kind of thing. 44% of students across the nation are housing insecure. Those numbers translate almost exactly to what's happening in Montgomery County, specifically at Montgomery County Community College, but also the other colleges that we serve as well. I think what matches these two numbers is the number you see right above it, right? 44% of all college students are experiencing generalized anxiety disorder, often connected to their basic needs and security. So about, I don't know, two years ago when I started doing this work, there was a student that came through Montgomery County Community College. His name is Josh, and he came from the Philadelphia region, and it took a few months after he connected with the Wellness Center before he was able to admit that he was living in his car. So he would drive to the school every morning, park in the parking lot, go to class, get back in his car, find a safe place to stay at night that he could sleep in his car, which I know we've got friends over here who are familiar with folks doing this, and then come to school the next day. He managed to maintain staying on the dean's list. Everyone knew who he was, and when they found out that he was homeless, everyone, including our organization, tried to figure out, what are we going to do for this young man to get him housed? A few months later, in fact, I think it was the middle of maybe last year, we were able to identify a unit for him that he had some other roommates, and he is now housed, not sleeping in his car. But this is not a story that's unfamiliar to us. We know that there are a lot of folks sleeping in their cars, sleeping in the Walmart parking lot here in Montgomery County on any given night of the week. Okay, all right, so I'm Marsha Eichelberger. I'm the Executive Director at Family Promise. Thank you to St. Thomas for allowing all three of us to be here. We work together collaboratively, and it's great to be able to be together on a Sunday morning and share with you a little bit about what we do and how folks at St. Thomas can get involved. So Family Promise provides housing and supportive services for families with children who are experiencing homelessness. And so, there's a couple different ways that we count homelessness in the United States. One is through HUD, which is the Department of Housing and Urban Development,
And so, and also Montgomery County does what they call a point-in-time count. So every year in January, the coldest night, one of the coldest nights of the year, they go out and they count the people that are out on the streets. So last year, according to Montgomery County, there were 435 people on the streets experiencing homelessness. And one of the things that I think is a little interesting is there's also the Department of Education counts homelessness. And they count it a little bit differently. You know, HUD says you have to be sleeping in your car or sleeping in a tent to be considered homeless under their definition of homelessness. The Department of Education understands that, if you're doubled up and sleeping on the floor of a friend's house, you're not going to be able to get that education that you might otherwise be able to get if you were, sleeping in a bed by yourself or with that. So the Department of Ed defines homelessness a little differently, and last year 2023, there were 1,761 children in Montgomery County, according to the Department of Ed, who were homeless. And so that's a lot of kids. It is really hard to, do well in school when you don't have a place to lay your head at night. And so that's one of the things that we're all working on is how do we help families and our community come to a place where they're more secure with their housing and more secure with their food. And so let me just move to the next one. All right, so again, this is how, I think it's helpful to look at this. I mean, HUD defines homelessness, it's a housing program, and McKinney-Vento, which is the statute under which education defines it a little bit differently. So that's why there's such a big difference. But again, we're working, if you've been in Ambler, we work with the faith community to house families 1 month at a time in our emergency shelter, and we also have apartments. So we're able to have families come in and stay for a couple years, they sign a lease with us, and they are able to put their lives back together. And I know many of you here have helped with that. I mean, there's advocates here, and you have the barn, which is another great resource for all of the community. I think they've helped the students at RSN and at Mattie Dixon. Yeah, so again, I know probably on Saturday mornings when you're getting up thinking, oh, I've got to get up again, we wanted you to know that we appreciate your barn sales, Yes. Yeah, thank you. Let's see. All right, so poverty, that's a big thing. Like, what is poverty? I think the poverty line in Montgomery County or in the world, not the world, but in the United States is about $12,000. I think that's what
it's very low.
Right.
Incredibly low. I don't believe it's changed since the 60s or the 70s.
Right. So who lives on that? Nobody does. So anyway, just again some information that 6.7% of our neighbors in Montgomery County are living below the poverty line, and that's again living on less than $12,000 a year.
I've got this number in my head,
and it's $57,000 a year. That is 200% of the federal poverty, over 200%, right, of the federal poverty level. I don't know too many people, right, living in Montgomery County, Chester County, and the surrounding counties that can afford that sort of cost of living, even think about buying a house, maybe even think about, covering the cost of rent at $57,000. So that's in my head. So that's, 200% of the federal poverty level.
sorry, got these random numbers in my mind.
Oh, that's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, what are we here? We're here to talk about what we do, and we're also here to say, I'm imagining that some of you say, what can we do? What can you guys at St. Thomas do to support not only the work we do, but the community in general? And I'm going to give you a couple, and I'm sure you will have a few more. So, advocacy is important. Writing to your elected officials and telling them and talking to them about what you see in your neighborhood. And maybe you're not seeing it in your neighborhood, but what the nonprofits, what the work that's going on. I know many of you. I think Jim helped one of our families go to the hospital and deliver a baby once, right? What an experience that is. And, John's been part of and founded what used to be
the College Basic Needs, which is now RSN. And I know you guys all have that spirit of advocacy and wanting to make a change. And so I think there's a challenge here, like what can the folks at St. Thomas do between now and, you know, we're gonna have primaries and then we're gonna have an election, and who, local, and who is in our local offices matter. And so on June 2nd, if you wanna write this down, and we can share this more globally, on June 2nd, the Bucksmont Collaborative, which is an organization that's been in Montgomery and Bucks County, is doing an advocacy day to Harrisburg. We did it 2 years ago and had 50 people there. Last year there were 100. It would be great if there was a contingency from our faith communities there. And what we do is the day's all planned for you. You get to go visit your elected official. We give you information about what are the issues. And the issues right now that the Bucksmont Collaborative is working on is food insecurity, housing, and mental health. Those are three big things that all of us are running into in our daily lives. So I would say, hey, can we get, I don't know, how many people should we say from St. Thomas should be there? Like fill a bus or fill half a bus, right? But we'd love to see you there, like be part of the solution. And so that's one thing that we have. The other thing, you know, housing is a big thing for us. You know, food insecurity, but so is housing. And Wendy and I were fortunate enough on Friday to be at the unveiling, 52 pages, of a housing action plan that the state, you want to talk a little bit about it? Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so the governor has announced $1 billion, right? A 5-point plan. You talk about the 5 million. All right, a 5-point plan for making housing more affordable and more available in the state of Pennsylvania. And so you can be part of this. I mean, this is inspirational and aspirational, but it doesn't happen if there aren't enough people who are going to say, when the budget time comes, that we are going to be behind this and we're going to vote for having, you know, more housing and affordable housing, attainable housing, whatever you want to call it. Families that we are working with are working hard. They're going to school. I mean, we had a woman that came to us that rode her bike every day from our place in Ambler to Giant because she didn't have transportation every day until we could work with her to get her a car. You know, she was in our program for 2 years, had 2 children, and then was able to move into an apartment of her own and is now stably housed. But that doesn't work without a lot of support. And wouldn't it have been easier for her if, in fact, we had better transportation, that she could have hopped on a bus in front of our, you know, in Ambler and gotten a bus to Springhouse. So anyway, you know, part of my message is we appreciate all the support you do, and advocacy is one of the things that's going to really help us, you know, look into the future and change some of those things. So I'm passing it to
I'm
you.
just going to tack on to that real quick because, you know, Springhouse Giant is one of our big partners, and I know that they work with Family Promise as well, and I'm sure with Wendy Mercy and with all the organizations around. However, you cannot get to Springhouse Giant from Ambler if you don't have a car. You can't. 2 miles. You can walk, but that makes for quite a hard day, especially this winter. Could you imagine waking up to go to your shift and have to walk 2 miles on the street, since half the sidewalks weren't plowed, and getting to work? So,
What sidewalks?
right, exactly, that's the extra part, right? So if, you know, that's yet another way to advocate, right, is the whole SEPTA program. You know, a lot of our families do not have reliable transportation. And so they come to us with, you know, wagons for food and what have you, but if they can't walk, or if they're disabled, or if they have little children, it's all, you know, all these things get compounded. And, you know, if SEPTA can, if that's ringing to you, then have that be your advocacy, because all of this, it's an onion. We're all just layers of the ultimate program, of the problem that we are all trying to address little by little, but it is absolutely intricately tied together, for sure.
I want to talk about 2 quick things. The first is that, you know, we've shown you a lot of data, a lot of what's hard and what is sometimes hard to look at. The flip side of that is that we have a strong community of people who care deeply. I've told people that you have to work really hard to starve in Montgomery County. because there are organizations like Family Promise, like Mattie Dixon, like a whole host of other organizations that make sure that the people who need it, without asking questions as to why, get the food that they need to make sure that their families are fed, that their children are fed, and that they're able to get the food that they need to do what they need to do. So we have a robust community that has the ability to step up, to help, to pack, boxes for folks that need food, to make sure that those ends meet. The second thing I wanted to say is so many of these things, and you were sort of alluding to this, are interconnected. Housing is connected to food, is connected to education, is connected to transportation. It's all connected. And so often when I start by talking to folks, I sort of say, how many of you know what the hourly wage is needed for a living wage here in Montgomery County? So go ahead and shout it out if you have an idea. What is the hourly wage that you need to not be eligible for any benefits and to be able to have a living wage here in Montgomery County? Any guesses?
30 an hour?
30, 25, others?
45.
45 an hour.
Stuff's expensive.
It's so very expensive. It actually hovers around $24, $25 an hour. So I don't know I think it was you that said 25, you get the price, okay. And so, we know that if you think about how expensive that is, I know a lot of people making $17, $18, $19 an hour, which sounds pretty decent. The truth is they're still eligible for a lot of benefits. And the benefits fall off very quickly if you make $1 more an hour. So I've actually worked with folks who have said, thank you, boss, for offering me $1 an hour raise, but right now I can't take it because I'm taking care of my grandchildren at home, and giving me that $1 more an hour is going to really mess up some things going on in my life. So there are reasons why people aren't able to take advantage of maybe even a raise that's offered to them. The other question I ask is, to make a living wage, how many jobs out there, what percentage of jobs require education beyond high school right now in the nation? Any guesses? What percentage of all jobs require education beyond high school?
It's gotta be at least 70, but probably 80.
Oh my gosh, on the money, 70. It's like 68%, it's gonna be 72% in a few years. Require education at all. We're not talking about a doctorate, a master's degree even. Any education beyond high school, it's hovering around 70% and just going up. And so when we're asking folks to, pick up your bootstraps or whatever you want to say, part of that is being able to get the education that they need, which is why we do the work we do, which is why these organizations do the work they do as well, to be able to support families in whatever it is that they're doing, whether it be school or work or both, which is most of the students that we serve. So just a few things to be taking along with you as you're thinking about how to connect, how to further help students and families and seniors is a big group right now that we're worried about as well as the cost of living rises and their set incomes are not rising at all.
I'm just going to have a few seconds just to talk about seniors in particular because we deal with quite a few seniors. Probably about 30% of our population that we serve are seniors. And I will give you a scenario of an 86-year-old who has been living in her apartment in town for 45 years. Her husband passed away probably 15 years ago, and she is living in her apartment still. For the last 3 years, we have supplemented her rent payment, portion of her rent payment for the last 3 years, because her rent has increased since COVID 45%. They have not done an ounce of renovations. They have not done any, there are still issues with her apartment. She is on a fixed income and she cannot afford to pay her rent and any other living costs. She comes and gets food from us, or we deliver food to her and what have you, but we're just, there's, to move at 86 from an apartment that you've been in for 45 years, to me, is cruel. And when she is able to live there. So I think one of the things that we have found, and I think we we all have found is, there's the children that, can pull on your heartstrings, but for us as well, those seniors that are on that fixed income have no method and no way of increasing that monthly income, and perhaps who don't have a lot of family left around them or what have you, we need to make sure that we can take care of them as well.
Well, we have this slide up there that says Q&A, so we're here to answer any questions that you might have. And I will say one thing real quick. One of the things that we all share, we're collaborators. We all work together. And we also believe that it's really important that all the folks that come to us are treated with dignity and respect. And so that's a really important piece of what we do. I know on your tables there's also, unabashedly added things about Family Promise on your tables. And so we have food lockers. And so that's one of the things that we've done in the past year to really meet people where they are. We want to be able to provide food to people whenever they need it. And Cindy's open certain days, we're open certain days, you guys deliver, to a different population. But there are people who work or who can't make it to the food pantries when they're open. So you can order ahead online and you can get food delivered in these lockers that the lockers are ambient, frozen, and refrigerated, so you can get the same food that you could get if you came to any one of our lockers. And I know we're talking about, can we do this in other places that might be a food desert rather than just at our food lockers. So again, that's a little bit, so I saw a hand in the back before go ahead, stand up and.
So I'm here as a representative of two demographics that are in this situation, one of which you mentioned, which is seniors, and the other is disabled. There are no services for disabled people, and lots of us have food restrictions that mean that none of this food system you're talking about is applicable to us. So that's just another demographic to be aware of, that all of the food pantries have food, but it's not food that lots of us can eat. So
Right, yeah, some of us have very limited, like we might have, we have limited different types of food, but you're right. The system is not perfect. It's
nothing. I've talked to Maddie Dixon, I've talked to Anna, I've talked to the people I know who run a variety of church-based, and they've all admitted we don't have anything that we can help you with. So I'm just saying, and then here's the other thing. All of us who live on Social Security got a 2.8% cost of living increase for this year, which for me translated to $12 a month. So they withdrew $5 a month of my SNAP to offset the cost of living increase. But the cost of living increase, as you know, so this is another way you can advocate with your representative, is to get them to design a system for SNAP and the other benefits that's actually fair. Because it doesn't help, we all know the cost of living has gone up more than 2.8% in the last year. The cost of food, we all know, has gone up way more than that. SNAP has not gone up, and now they're taking it away from people who are crunched in that. So these are areas of advocacy that the people who are stable and don't have to deal with this every day need to just be a little more aware of.
Right, absolutely. The system is not a perfect system. We all know that. We see that every day. We work with folks that should be able to continue getting their SNAP benefits, or and right now one of the new things at the federal level is that if you're a SNAP recipient and under the age, I think, of 60, you have to work. And you can't work, or you're not working, or you have small. It used to be that I think your kids needed to be, if they were younger than 12, you didn't have to work. So all that's changing.
The rules have changed.
Yes, and making it more difficult for everybody to get those benefits. Yeah.
My daughter Aubrey is one of those recipients, and we're jumping through multiple hoops of trying to keep her with her SNAP benefits and her Medicaid. And because of her trauma that she suffered as a child, she's volunteering here at church, and thank you very much, everybody, for that. And that's going very, very well. But so she has to make sure she gets those 80 hours a month now, volunteer time, in order to keep her benefits, or else they're gone. So that's just wrong. I only make like $30-some thousand a year, so ain't no way I'm ever buying a house. I've had 4 when I was married, so I'm all good there, but I'm just worried about Aubrey. who doesn't work right now, and she's 32. I'm really, really, really worried about that. So I'm trying to figure out something or other. I mean, I work 3 jobs right now, and I'm 66. So I don't get any benefits because I make too much money, or so they tell me. So, but anyway, and the minimum wage in Pennsylvania is still $7.25 an hour. When will Harrisburg get its mind together to raise that? So I don't understand that either. But anyway, I am a gardener, and I have 3 garden plots now here at church. I have a green thumb like an evergreen, so I can grow just about anything. And so I have a plan, and I have 2 large plots now that I just got this year. I would like to grow, and aiming and planning, and already have the seeds, to grow all kinds of regular, normal vegetables, like carrots and beets and things that everybody eats. And even you, Gracia. And but I don't know how to get this produce to where it needs to go. So maybe you can help me, maybe you can talk afterwards, you can guide me as to how to get this planned out ahead of time before I get started and all, so I know where to go and what to do, who to talk to, because that's what I would really love to do. And I have lived in my car, and we have been homeless and all of this, and I divorced my abusive ex-husband, and that cost me a lot of money, and lost my house back in the Great Recession in a short sale, and I lost all my equity, and yeah, so I'm there. I understand. But I want to be there for those people also, with what I can give, because so much has been given to me. And so I want to help, and I can, but I don't know how to do it. So.
So sorry that you've gone through that. It sounds like it's been a challenge. But again, we're here. We're not going to leave right away. I think that we can work with you about that if that's something that can happen here. And I know, like Penny Pack Farms, that's another. There's areas that we might be. And again, that's one of the things that I guess that I just want to say is, like, we're resources for you. Somebody said thank you for being here, and I said thank you for inviting us. Like, we love to come, and obviously we don't have any problem talking about what we do or all that. So we love to be here. You can invite us, every couple months, and we would be here talking about some different subject. But anybody else have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to pass this to you, and you can say, because I talked too much. So.
Go ahead.
I just had a question. So you said 8.6% of the Montco population is food insecure. And then you said 26% of the population is above the poverty line but still struggling with food insecurity. So if we combine that, is that like, so it's 8.6 and then 20, okay, so.
Total, 26% total
Okay.
includes folks who are living in economic
Thank you,
poverty.
that was what I was asking.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
It's too many people, no matter how many people it is, too many people in the second richest county in the state that are suffering, that are
If
struggling.
it's on top of each other, that's a third of the population.
It might be. I'm going to give this to you. I might be wrong about what I just said to you. It might be
Montgomery
about
County.
30.
That's really what I was trying to point out.
I think you can actually make good progress.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jen.
I was wanting to ask about Mattie Dixon Food Cupboard. I know that the barn supports Mattie Dixon. We love that. But I want to make sure that our communication is good and that we give you what you need. And so my question for you is, do you think the communication is good enough that the food comes and the clothing comes when you need it? Or can we improve that?
One of the things that I've learned, I've been a director now for almost 6 years, and one of the things that I can tell you with 100% truth is that there is nothing that I can forecast appropriately, other than the need is real and it keeps growing. There is no such thing as a normal month. There's no such thing as a normal day or week. So what St. Thomas has done for us throughout the years has been tremendous, and you are a huge supporter of us, and we truly appreciate that. And the clothes and the money and the food and all of that is perfectly wonderful the way it is. I would not have a way to tell you to improve it. So I think one of the things that if there was anything that I could get across to folks is people are hungry 12 months a year, not just in November and December. If I'm going to be 100% truthful. People think on holidays, which is, we love when anybody thinks of other people that are struggling in your neighbors in your community. Summertime is a really hard time for families. The kids are at home. They're not at school where there's, you know, possibly the free breakfast and the free lunches and what have you. And so those kids are at home, and I don't know if anyone's had teenagers recently, but they eat a lot. And if they're home, they eat even more than they would probably at school. So summertime is always a great time if you want to do a food drive in your community or in your neighborhood or here or what have you. I think the other thing is just always ask. You can just ask. We prefer, and I don't know, you know, you guys are probably the same way as far as, because we can't forecast how it's going to be, just give us a call if you're thinking about doing something and say, hey, can we do this? Would this help you right now, or is there a better thing that we could try? Yes, ma'am.
I have two comments. One is Pam Sarah has organized, with the help of the outreach committee, for a food lantern drive to begin next week. So everybody here, start putting an extra bag in your car, and when you go shopping, fill it up and bring it to the food drive. The other thing I'd like to ask is, what sort of effect do you see all the issues surrounding immigration and ICE raids? What is that having on your food banks, your rental assistance, that sort of thing?
It affects it tremendously. There's, you know, a population in Ambler that is scared. So we try to attend to them as well as we can and let them know that we are here to support them, whether it is by delivering food, by sharing food, more food with folks that do come that might be able to share it with the folks that are still scared to come. We work really closely with, again, you know, with these organizations as well as other organizations that work with families in Ambler specifically. And, you know, unfortunately, we know families that have been affected by this. And so we just try to let them know that we are here to provide food, comfort, any resources from our case management that we have to move forward. And then again, we don't have all the answers, but we do have lots of connections with other organizations.
Right, so I think that was one of the things that, you know, maybe we weren't thinking about this at the time, but our food lockers, you know, allow people to come night, day, anytime that they want. And, you know, one of the things that I would imagine that we've all sort of struggled with and wrestled with internally, like, what are our policies around ICE? And so we have, you know, we as a board, our board has adopted policies. We don't share information, but we also know that much of the information that we have to, like, we're all needing to put information into a database for the county. And so we've had conversations with them. Hey, is this information secure? And so one of the things, again, dignity and respect is important. So we are there to try to meet people where they are. If that means Cindy's delivering food to more people than she did, she does that. But, you know, that has an impact on, like, the fuel that we're using, the volunteers that we're using, all of those things. So we are trying to support the families in all sorts of ways. But it's a challenge, because one of the things is, like, it's a changing, chaotic landscape. And when those things happen, it's really hard to sort of predict. You know, we can't predict food, but we can't predict what our families are going to need either. So we're trying to meet them the best that we can where they are. And then the other thing that we haven't talked about is our staff. Yeah. You know, this is something that the folks that are doing this work are not, I mean, they get a salary, we're not all volunteers, but, you know, they're not making a lot of money, and there's a lot of stress around, you know, how do we protect our families? And so one of the things that we're all doing is trying to say, you know, what can we do to support our staff? So maybe one day we have, you know, it's not a lot, but we'll have a pizza party, or we'll do things to help support the work that we're doing, because it is heavy work. It is hard to be, you know, day in and day out. And Cindy said she's been doing this for 6 years. I've been down here for 13 years. It's a long time. And, you know, I think part of us thought we made it through COVID, right? You know, our knees made it through COVID with not having to be replaced, and now we're just in a different type of chaos for all of us.
I mean, I think you already said it all. What I kept thinking was exactly what Marsha just said, is it's a changing landscape. So I think the answer to your question, Mimi, is we don't know yet all of the repercussions that this is going to have, not only on our immigrant neighbors and friends, but all of us moving forward. I don't know. I think we've still yet to see what's going to happen and how it's going to affect all of us.
Appropriate. It's a very appropriate
say individual
Oh.
statements.
Who doesn't want to be right there?
All right, John, I don't know how long we have for questions.
It might be helpful to describe the difference between housing insecurity and being homeless, and the statistic on the number of people who are homeless, who sleep on the street in Montgomery County, right here in our backyard.
Sure, I mean, I'll start. I think, Marsha showed you some of the numbers from the point in time count, which it's a number of a single night of the year. So we know that the folks who are experiencing literal homelessness, we're talking about sleeping in your car, or the McKinney-Vento number of sleeping in your car, sleeping, on somebody's couch, hotels. We know that that's relatively high in Montgomery County, maybe anywhere between 1,500, 2,000, maybe something around there, which is already not great. We're talking about housing insecurity. We're talking about folks who every month or multiple times a year say to themselves, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. I need to scrape this together. Maybe I'm going to skip meals, or I'm not going to go to the doctor and pay my, $40, $50 copay. Or there are things that they skip so that they can make rent. So when we're talking about housing insecurity, it's folks who often are housing cost burdened. It also means that they're paying more than 30% of their income, which is what the federal government says we ought to be paying. Again, this is an old number. We should be paying 30% for our food, 30% for our housing, and 30% for everything else. And all of that is since what, the 1950s or something. That's when that was created. Most of the folks who we all work with are paying at least 50% of their income is going toward their housing. Many folks up to 60 to 70%. That's housing insecurity, and I think John has a question for that.
But the number of people, I think it's like
Oh, the number of people?
150 people in Montgomery County.
No, it's 400 and some, 453 or something,
Really large.
Yeah, was it, so it was, I don't know, it's either 450 something or 5, hold on.
Oh.
You're talking about housing insecurity? No, housing, the point in time count.
The point in time figure.
Right there.
435.
435, so there were 435 people in 2024 who, when they went out in that night in January, that they were able to find on the streets. So that is, and again, to be honest, like, that's not a lot of families, that's a lot of individuals, right? Because, and again, it was a code blue, which means that the county has opened up many places for people to be at night. But that doesn't mean that you have a place to, it's a landing place at night, but not a place where you can, an address, where you can get your mail, all the things, take a shower, all those things that really lend to being able to be a functioning member of our society. You need a home, you need a house to be able to do many of the things. Like, where do we get our Wi-Fi? Where do we get, where do we do all those things? You really need a stable housing to be able to, like, you have diabetes, you have any sort of health issue that requires you to take medication. What do you do with that if you don't have a place to put your head at night?
And many of our families do have medical issues because it is absolutely directly tied to the stresses of being home, housing insecure, food insecure. Again, it's one of those, intersections of the issues that our families are facing.
Okay, and I think we've gotten it. Time is over.
I know.
So we're probably over that. So thank you, everybody. We're going to be around. If you have questions,